Discussion and action on recommendation of the Ethics Committee on the grant ethics complaint. Dave, if you wouldn't mind, given that this is Dave or Terry actually, and Greg as well, since you guys were part of the ad hoc committee, engaging or initiating the discussion.
We all got the thorough package. I guess that's right. See if there's any questions regarding what was provided with the recommendation.
Okay, so I do have some questions, comments. I think when it came out that he was going to resign, and I think the initial meeting where he was asked to, I was feeling good, I was feeling comfortable about our community, and then the newscast came through, and my first response was we as a board need to make a statement faster that we don't accept this as a community. At that point I was hoping he'd resign, and I had encouraging words that he would resign, because that's not how I professionally handle things. Is I address the issue fast, and as we should have said, this is unacceptable and we should have had an emergency meeting right away if he was not going to resign. Which my understanding was he was very close to. With that said, I do not think this is acceptable. I think we need to take every avenue possible to basically say, as a board, we are strong. I continue to think of and look at my kid who's saying to me, why is this okay? And why are you letting this happen, Mom? When, you know, I've lectured her to be a leader, this is what you have to do. When you don't agree with somebody, it doesn't matter. You sit down and you have a conversation with them. And this is started all the way from the beginning of, if Mayor Gray would have initially reached out to, and I know he has not, any of the people that have been on the Village Voices and said, hey, let's sit down and talk one-on-one. It didn't have to be a group meeting if that's not his comfort level. Because I assure you, there's many people that have fought me, and I still go to their things, and I still show up, and I still support them. Because that's what you do when you're a leader. And that's what we're here to teach our kids. And this is what Chatham has been grown on, as family values. So that's what bothers me, is we did not make a strong enough statement as a board, I believe, right away. We gave him 48 hours, we should have made a stronger statement. And now we have that opportunity to not only just censor him, but there's also under the N4 option, the ordinance, a violation case, to actually go to circuit court with him and do a charge against him that way. We also have the option too, because I know it is covered in the censure, but to me, I want to say that I definitely do not value or do not allow this to happen, and want to know vote of confidence from everybody here. I know that's in the censor, but I want to make a statement that I do not have my vote of confidence as a trustee. If anybody else wants to join me, feel free.
No, I mean, I share your frustration. It's been, to me, I understand when people say he made a mistake, and the obscene gesture he made, but for me that was the icing on the cake. And I say that because it's been years now where we've had a mayor that does not participate in the discussions, doesn't engage with the citizens, does not even
Show up.
care to show up, care to at least you know, participate with the board who brings up issue after issue. And for all intents and purposes, he's a figurehead that really I don't think adds value to this board at this point. I would second your vote of no confidence. I don't believe, you know, I know people say we only have till April, but we have made significant strides as a board. As much as we have disagreed in the past, we've come together on some things, some pretty serious things, some pretty significant things. And then the sideshow happens, and it's constantly the sideshow with the mayor. And that's anything that I could go on the record to say that I don't have any confidence in this, that would encourage him to at least get out of the way from what we're trying to do here. I'm all in favor for it.
I guess I would have to say, you know, I thought we did it swift because it happened the morning of December 13th. That evening, we had a meeting as a committee of the whole. I know Dave brought up something that he basically had asked the mayor to resign, and that we would most likely go to a censorship. So that was, I'll say, immediate.
But
And then-
asking for resign to me is 48 hours in my world. You have 48 hours to resign. If you don't resign, you make a stronger statement that this is unacceptable.
Well, and
That's
then-
how the world works, because otherwise, if we give it 2 weeks, and our city's been the exact same questions that have came up from my daughter, my friends, as I walk in the community, as I walk into my gym, it becomes a joke. What I do right now is a joke.
And I do
That's
know-
unacceptable.
But I do know at the December 20th, I know I stated the same thing, that he owed the public an apology and that he should resign. But at the same time, we are limited as a board on what we can actually
But we
force
can
him
make
to
a
do.
strong statement right away.
Which I believe we have made some strong statements.
We never voted right away to say this is unacceptable. Instead, we said, we will give him time to resign, which we did. I sat back and said, okay, I'll give him time to resign. But then at that point, I said, hey, all right, this has been enough time. He said, I watched that newscast, and from somebody who's been managing people for years and years, and knows, I would say, kind of knows people, that was somebody saying they're not going to resign. And that's when my email came out of my concern of, hey, we've got to do something bigger. And when everybody said, he's almost there, he's going to resign, and I said, fine. But we're here 2 weeks later.
And it took a citizen's action and amended complaint to get to this point, not action by the board.
It always takes us. Because you guys' hands are always tied.
So no vote of confidence.
I'm fine with, I'll second that motion.
Okay.
In addition to the censure, I mean, I'm good, I'm totally fine with the censure ordinance, but I get what Nina's saying. It's, you know, that's for flipping the bird. The vote of no confidence is everything else, and, I mean, he's not even participating, and that's why I don't have confidence in his leadership. And I think that's a fair, I don't think it's beating a dead horse. I think it's just making a explicit statement. A statement that I think a lot of us share. In addition to the censure ordinance.
There's our public apology. And I think that comes down to it more is, yes, what if there was a reach out to say, I'm sorry. And you can go back and forth and say it's somebody's way, and again, I'll go back to what I've said to my daughter. I don't care. You learn to be a bigger person. If you want to be a leader and you say you want to be one of the best, you know what you do? You be the bigger person, you go to them and you say something. And you start a conversation. Has anybody in here had a conversation one-on-one?
No.
Thank you. I mean, that's being the bigger person. Trust me, there's people up here I don't agree with, but I've reached out to them and been up front. It's, you know, it's what we have to do.
He had opportunities in those news interviews he did that night. And he apologized for himself. He did not apologize to us.
And besides that,
Can we-
he was tongue-tied.
Let's organize this here for a second. Dave has prepared this censure ordinance. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with the censure ordinance?
I have some comments I'd like to make about it, yes. You know, as I stated with the news this evening, we spoke here earlier, and, you know, I don't in any way condone what the mayor did. I don't think it was right, and that's why I believe the censure is the right thing to do. It is formally telling the mayor what you did was wrong. It's unacceptable. You know, but I also don't believe it's an offense that he should resign. You know, we're going to censor him, I hope. There's enough votes to censor him. But I believe we need to get over this and move on as a board so we can move on and work on the issues that are important to our community. The issues like our water, that obviously still has some issues.
You said it was fine.
Yes.
If you let me finish, I'd appreciate it.
Oh.
But, you know, we have issues that we need to get to, and as someone else up here already said, this is a distraction. And we need to stop being distracted from the issues that we're supposed to be up here addressing.
But
And
I'm
in my book, that's not addressing the issue of whether or not the mayor gave somebody the middle finger or not. It's whether or not we have the best water we can be drinking, or drive on the best streets that we can be driving on, or walk on the best sidewalks we can walk on. Those are the issues that are important to me, and I think we need to get to those issues.
And the other issue is he has made
Hold on.
Chatham a joke.
Greg, for
The water's made Chatham.
parliamentary procedure here, would something of a vote of no confidence have to be done? It's something that's not on the agenda tonight. Would that be something we have to take action on at a later time?
And Greg, actually, I believe in order to do a no confidence vote, I believe you have to be a home rule community, is that correct?
I don't think you can hold a vote
No,
on
and
it.
this is where I think clarification needed. It's a non-binding vote, but I think it sends the message to Mayor Gray about where you stand as far as his leadership goes. And I think that the censure, like I said, is being specific to the flipping of the bird. Whereas this no confidence, I think, it's a vote that tells him where the board stands in relation to his leadership abilities and the way he manages and governs this village. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, Trustee Clayton's right, because this will not have a formal effect other than to inform the mayor of how this board feels, that they have no confidence.
But we can't hold that vote tonight.
Well, there is discussion and action on the recommendation, which is under new business, which would allow you to, in this instance, deny in part or modify in part the recommended action and take action as long as you're taking action based on the recommendation of the ethics committee and the violations contained within that ethics complaint. If you're moving beyond what was in the ethics complaint, then it would need to happen in a later date.
Well, what's your from?
Which is, because it's a finger.
Well, but the middle finger is part of the amended complaint.
Okay.
And also included in the complaint, based on what I've heard up here, is lack of responsiveness was put in the original complaint to form a basis on your actions that you take tonight.
So would you, for all, making sure we're all above board here, would it be something we could add an addition or amend to add an addition to the censure ordinance, or do you believe that this is the vote of no confidence?
The vote of no confidence, I believe, appropriately falls under number 2 in new business, if that's the action that you want to take.
I would like to,
So Nina made a motion and I second.
I'm throwing here because not that I disagree, but the section in the complaint, one of the things that was discussed and addressed was that section was withdrawn from that complaint. So if it's a withdrawn issue, is it still in this complaint that we're even talking about it?
Part of the initial complaint, which was reviewed as a whole, is correct. That was withdrawn when the commission was making its decision. And the recommendation was made based on one finding of violation. So that, I would have to actually look at the notes to see which parts were withdrawn.
That was one. That was.
which one was it? I've got it right here.
It also says though on part of, under your ethics policy, part in 4, which I believe it was clear that Part 4, Section 3, the censure was applicable, and you were going to move on that. Part 4 and 5 were potentially applicable, and under Part 4, it does say, in addition to the penalties and sanctions contained in Division N 1 through 3, the village board may, at its discretion, file an ordinance violation case in the circuit court against any person violating this section. And I think Nina was getting to that there's additional action you can do other than this censure ordinance that's on your agenda tonight. And it's at your discretion, guys.
But that is the remedy, that's a remedy, that's not the underlying facts, that's not the underlying count. So you have to have the pled facts, and if they are an ethics violation, which the only violation that was found was giving the middle finger, then you can move on to what the remedies are. So it's two separate parts.
We can still, with that, do the ordinance violation case in circuit court against middle finger to add into that, correct? Under N4?
This board has the authority, yes, on the middle finger action to have an ordinance violation if this board determines that's how they want to proceed, an ordinance violation can be filed. As was explained at the hearing, that ordinance violation Mayor Gray would still have his due process rights, just as any other court, or just as any other complaint filed in circuit court to defend his action.
I think it's just us, the more statements we can make as a community, the stronger I think it's.
Well, I guess I should say this, it doesn't sound like we're comfortable to move this forward tonight, vote of no confidence. It sounds like there's some concerns about what was in that original complaint was withdrawn.
That's right, I forgot that paragraph had been withdrawn.
So we have to add that in the next meeting, correct?
Do an amended motion.
Well, if you're basing it on the middle finger, that was included within the amended complaint. But when, at our hearing, the amended complaint, certain counts were removed. And those counts that were removed or withdrawn is the term we use. Those counts cannot form the basis for your action.
But as I talked about, there's a lot that gives me no confidence in our mayor. The middle finger was the icing on the cake for me. So is it all in part of just the middle finger, or is it?
What this board, the best way to move forward for this board would be, to have it on another agenda. This
So we
board
can't
does
amend
not
the
need.
motion like you said?
Right, and here's why, because the motion is tying into an agenda item. And what it was tying into in today's agenda item was discussion and action on recommendation of the ethics committee. You don't need to tie it to the complaint other than that's how you were tying it to an agenda item today.
Okay.
So what Trustee Clayton wants to do, taking Mayor Gray's actions as a whole, including his lack of responsiveness, is appropriate so long as there's a separate agenda item at another meeting, at a later meeting, because we can't tie it to the complaint today. Sufficiently clear.
I'm good with putting it on a later agenda, as that seems like that would be our only option. And two, as much as there's been discussion and concerns about OMAs and so on and so forth, I want to make sure it's done right. Do I have a motion for the censure ordinance?
Well, hang on.
Or is there any further discussion?
Do we need to accept the findings?
You're not required to accept it.
Did we have a motion for the censure ordinance? A
Yeah,
resolution?
yeah.
Not
There's a
yet.
question.
No, you presented the findings, now they act on it.
Okay. So there's no action needs to be taken. Okay. All right.
Do I have a motion? then?
Yeah, resolution number,
57.
make the motion. Resolution censoring the village.
I'll second that.
You want to read it in?
Carter never. Excuse me, I coughed several times. Whereas it is a core value of the village board that its citizenry be treated with the utmost respect and integrity. Whereas the elected leaders of the village, including specifically through the leadership of the village president, best set the example and tone for demonstrating respect and integrity. Whereas it is the village board's expectation that the officials of the village will behave in a professional manner, show deference to those who disagree, and encourage public dialogue. Whereas on December 13th, 2016, Village President Tom Gray made an obscene gesture by giving the middle finger to a citizen live streaming a village committee meeting. And whereas the obscene gesture made by Village President Gray was unprofessional, served only to further divide the community, and does not reflect the values of the village board or the community. And whereas by this resolution, the village board desires to censure Village President Gray for his actions and reinforce its commitment to civil public discourse, now therefore be it resolved by the village board of the village of Chatham, Sangamon County, Illinois as follows. Section 1, the above stated recitals are incorporated by reference. Section 2, the village board hereby publicly censures Village President Tom Gray for the obscene gesture he made to a citizen at the December 13, 2016 village committee meeting, and calls upon Village President Gray to publicly apologize for his section. This resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately after its passage.
Any further discussion? Pat, would you take the vote?
Trustee Clayton.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Al. Al.
Yes.
Trustee Felton. Lennox.
Yes.
Mel.
Yes.
All right, now that we got that out of the way. Next on the agenda is approving Plat 2 Cardinal